Evening, folks. Welcome to the matchday preview for Leeds United versus Norwich City, the second leg of the playoff semi-finals. Didn't do one for the first half because I've been away with work, and then I went away with my partner, and all that stuff happened. So missed a couple of days, but we're back to normal. And you know you're back to normal because we've got Andrew Dalton in the house as well. Stats, been a while. How's things, mate?
Very well, very well. Very nervous. Biggest game of the season tomorrow night, and it's a big opportunity for these players to become heroes and reach Wembley for the first time in 16 years, and hopefully end our playoff hoodoo.
We will hope. We will hope. Yeah. Let's not overly commit just yet. We'll talk our way into it. I know we do. Thanks to everyone who's watching the stream. Just a couple of public service announcements. Someone saying massive thank. We are that close to 32,000 subscribers. So again, a massive thanks to everyone that subscribed today to try and help us get over the mark. And we've just gone past 4 million views on the channel as well. 2 years doing this, I didn't think it would ever get to this stage. And I have had my disagreements with people on social media and in the comments and all of that, but I will never take away from the fact that I'm eternally grateful for everyone that's allowed me to do this, who's watched the content. I always say agree or disagree. That's football. That's just opinions. But from a personal perspective, I'm very grateful to everyone that's helped and supported this to get to where it has gotten to. So huge thank you. And we push on, and we hopefully we'll wrap up this season, the championship, and head into the Premier League next season with Leeds United. But if we don't, we're back here again next year in the championship. So we'll go again. I do want to talk to Stats a little bit about the Norwich game. Before we get to that, there's a bit of breaking news that came out tonight that I wanted to get your opinion on. Stats. It's not Leeds related, but it might be affecting Leeds next season. And that's Wolverhampton Wanderers have issued a letter to the Premier League to scrap VAR for the 24-25 season. Basically, it says that the introduction of VAR in 2019-2020 was a decision made in good faith and with the best interest of football in the Premier League at its heart. However, it has led to numerous unintended negative consequences that are damaging the relationship between the fans and football and undermining the value of the Premier League brand, which includes, and there's a lengthy list here of impacting on goal celebrations, frustration and confusion inside stadiums with lengthy VAR checks, a more hostile atmosphere with protests booing the Premier League anthem, overreaching of VAR's original purpose, which was to be correct clear and obvious errors, to now over-analysing subjective decisions and compromising the game's fluidity and integrity, diminished accountability for the on-field officials, which I think that from a Leeds perspective, we've felt this year with officials coming down the championship, the handball in front of Joe Rodon's face that should have been a penalty for me from a Premier League official very much felt like somebody waiting on someone in his ear to tell him, we'll check that for you, and never came. Continued errors despite VAR, disruption to the Premier League's fast-paced with lengthy VAR checks, constant discourse around VAR decisions. It's been lengthy in the press. Constant, erosion of trust and reputation with VAR fueling competitive, nonsensical allegations of corruption. So it goes on to say basically that there's no blame in this letter, but they want it on the agenda for the AGM. And by submitting this letter, it puts the conversation around whether VAR should exist on the table in the AGM to be voted on. So the clubs will have to take a vote on this. Now, the Premier League is bringing in FIFA's semi-automatic offside system for next season, which has worked incredibly well in FIFA tournaments and in the Champions League as well this year. That will be an improvement, but it is this subjective stuff between a hair's breadth between a line and another micro line, when it used to be as clear cut as if you're level, you're on. End of story. Now, not so much. What's your take on that, Stats? The fact that your thoughts on VAR in general, because a lot of championship clubs looking for next season as well. Daniel Farke's comments around having 12 apology letters this season, and if VAR had been in place, Leeds would have automatically been promoted. What's your take on it from a footballing perspective, and then from, say, a football purist perspective as a fan?
From a football fan's perspective, I hate VAR because you're in a stadium, you scored a last-minute winner, and you're waiting for the goal to be VAR, basically. It could be a toenail offside, it could brush someone's hand. There's so many decisions that have gone wrong. Look, I know eventually they get to the right decision, but imagine you've just scored the winning goal to win the Premier League, say Man City on Sunday against West Ham United at the Etihad, and you're waiting in the ground. It's taking away, for me, the enjoyment factor of celebrating a goal. I'm not a fan of VAR. Automated offsides will be brilliant. They're working in the Champions League. For me, you should just have video technology, for goal line technology, should I say, and that works perfectly, unless you're Aston Villa or Sheffield United back in the summer of 2020 when Hawkeye didn't work. But it's taking away the fun of it. Is it coming to the Championship next season? Has that been decided?
Not been decided, but there are clubs looking for it.
Yeah, not for me. I prefer it if a referee gets a human error, because we all make mistakes, and you can go into a pub at the end of the game and say the referee got this wrong. And if VAR then get it wrong, you've seen all the consequences it's had. You've seen all the issues it's had. You've seen my clone with Howard Webb on when they look back through every decision. You're in a ground. You're there to enjoy the football. You can't enjoy it by you start waiting like you can have 4 or 5 looks. Every single decision's looked at, and it is so frustrating. And I want to be able to watch my team, whether it be in the Premier League or Championship next season, with no VAR, because this season's been really, really enjoyable. Okay, we've got a few decisions that have probably gone against us, especially the Sunderland game, and probably should have had a penalty.
But a few that went our way as well. Willie Nunto offside against Middlesbrough.
Yeah, it kind of swings and roundabouts with decisions. And I'm all for referees having their own way. I'm sick of them listening to it in the ear, and they still get it wrong. So if they're still getting it on with VAR, what's that telling you? That the system isn't working. Yeah, frustrating for me, VAR, and it's got to go through a long process. I can understand why Wolves have gone. I'm surprised Nottingham Forest haven't kind of done it, because I know Mariakis, their owner, has been very critical of the refereeing decisions this season. So, yeah, I, for one, won't be sad to see the end of it, if I'm being totally honest.
Yeah, from a completely football purist perspective, I hate the stoppages, the amount of how long they take. I think there's a lot of common sense that seems to be missing from the process. The problem with having a video referee is the referee part of it. It's the human element to it. So especially when you're over analyzing, I agree. I think it was either Mick McCarthy or someone had said it. There should be like a 30-second limit on VAR checks, and if you can't spot it within 30 seconds, then it's no longer clear and obvious, and therefore it goes with the on-field decision and you move on. But it puts the onus back on the referee on the field to make the decision and remove the safety net that's there in case he misses stuff, because some of the responsibility for me has to be on the referee. If the referee doesn't blow the whistle, then VAR are going to check it. But we've seen moments this year where the on-field decision has been incorrect and VAR haven't even looked at it. So it's not clear. It's not been great. It's not been done properly. As John says, automate it. If automation for the offsides makes sense, take it. For everything else, remove it. And I would agree with Wolves in this. I don't think it's made Premier League football better. I don't think it has removed mistakes from the game. It's just replaced referee mistakes with video referee mistakes, and it may as well just be what it was before. Except let's have the enjoyment back in the stadiums and let's have the atmosphere back again.
You want to be able to celebrate a goal. You want to be able to, in the last minute, like I remember when Rafinha scored the winning penalty against Crystal Palace in November 2021. We waited for VAR to decide if it was a penalty or not. And then you've got no idea. And there's that split second you think, no one knows what's going on. And that's the worst bit as a football fan. You've no idea when they go to a screen what they're looking at, and you're kind of second guessing. And for me, it's got the jeopardy element. I get that. But you want to be able to enjoy the game. It's an entertainment at the end of the day, it's football. And you shouldn't have to wait 10 minutes for... And the other thing is, if you're waiting 10 minutes, you'll see games and that's not even added on. And it's very, very frustrating. So, for me, if it goes, I won't be too disappointed. Obviously, you'll still get human error from refereeing decisions, but that's part and parcel of the game.
I had a little interaction with Alan Nixon from The Sun on Twitter about it. He basically said that a lot of championship clubs want it next season. And I just replied to him and said, as a Leeds fan, I can tell you most Leeds fans do not want it in the championship next season. That we've enjoyed having the emotion back this year, and we've enjoyed being able to celebrate a goal when it's happened. And he's put out his response to it basically was, I'm trying to find it here now because it was an interesting response. He basically said that it hasn't improved things and it hasn't removed error. So therefore, it's not adding to the game. It's just taking away from the game. And I agree with that as well. I think we should just move on from it. But it's the hard part is getting stuff into football. Once it's in, it's even harder to get it out of football.
Get out,
And that's the problem. So we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I just wanted to have a quick chat about that one just because it popped up before we started. I know it's something that may affect us next season, if we get into the Premier League, and there's talk about them trying to get it into the Championship, which would obviously impact us again next season. So if we stay in the Championship. So anyway, let's talk about real football. Let's talk about the playoffs. Let's talk about the Championship. Stats, we go into this game. I wanted to get your thoughts on the Norwich City game, the first leg, but I want to do it in two ways. I want to talk about your opinions on the first half of the game and then your opinions on the second half of the game, because I noticed, for me, two very different performances in both halves, and I wanted to get your thoughts on it and the lineup and the shape that he went with.
I think, to answer your last question first, I thought he got the lineup absolutely spot on. I thought we'd leaked a lot of goals over the last few weeks. Obviously, we shipped 4 at QPR, 3 at Middlesbrough, 2 at Coventry. So he was going away from home. You don't have to win the tie, and I said this on Twitter on Sunday afternoon. You don't have to win the tie there and then. Obviously, it's going to be tense tomorrow night, but I thought he got his tactics and his lineup absolutely spot on, having an extra man in midfield. We could have had a penalty. It was borderline with a penalty on Willie Nontes, probably just outside the box. We didn't get a free kick. We could have had a goal from Junior Firpo, again, borderline offside. But yeah, first half was a little bit edgy. I thought no quarter given by both sides. I knew this, I wanted to make a mistake. I thought second half was a lot more like a bit like the old Leeds that we'd seen in recent weeks. And it was getting back to the normal styles. I got a bit of confidence of passing the ball around. Okay, Angus Gunn didn't really have a save to make, and neither did Illan Meslier. But you go away from home in a playoff semi-final. The aim is not to lose and to be very much in the tie in front of your home crowd tomorrow night. And I was delighted with that result on Sunday afternoon. It gives a brilliant opportunity now. There's pressure on both sides because obviously Leeds being the home team. It's a one-off game. It's a big game. The prize, the pot, the end of the rainbow is absolutely humongous if you are to get back into the Premier League. But yeah, it gives us a real platform to build on from Sunday. I lost you. I'm back again. I don't know.
Set the next thing up. Sorry, set up the next thing.
I think it gives us a wonderful opportunity to go and complete the job at Ellen Road tomorrow evening.
Yeah, I agree completely. I thought the lineup was nice to see an actual change in the lineup. Archie moving that position, I thought was interesting. People were talking about Archie playing as a 10. I kind of watched the game and he was advanced.
Yes.
But I thought the midfield too in Kamara and Groove were deeper, which allowed Firpo and Byram to go higher. And then you had a kind of a more advanced 8 in Archie Gray kind of playing in that gap, but a lot more progressive in his passing, a lot tighter on the ball at times. Hasn't played in that role, so it's never going to be perfect. But I thought there was an awful lot to like about it. First half, I completely agree. I thought it was cagey, but it kind of felt it had to be. Leeds needed to get back to the fundamentals of keeping clean sheets and being more solid, because that was the basis of which we went on the run for the 17 games with. It was based on a foundation of not conceding goals. So to not concede from open play again or in any way was massive for me. Second half, I thought we came out. I would be surprised to see a different start tomorrow night. I think it'll still be cagey at the start. I think these will be tight at the start and then work their way into it. Wagner seems to want to go to penalties. He's already talking about planning penalties, and we'll talk about that later on, Stats.
Yeah.
At the back end, we are going to discuss penalties at the end of this. We are going to do that. But I think Leeds, if as long as the occasion doesn't get to the young players and they relax, they've been a bit on edge in the last couple of home games. Just relax, play your football. I think you could see impacts from players like Dan James and Connor Roberts in the next game. I think they could have a huge part to play. I think Joe Pirro as well, I think, will have a part to play in the second game. I know everyone wants Mateo Joseph, but I think it'll be Pirro at some point. But I don't see him moving away fundamentally from what he did against Norwich in the first half. I was happy to see a 0-0 because it gives us defensive solidity.
Correct.
Norwich have been good at home this year, and I was happy enough with that. But I want to talk about one aspect of it. That's what flashed up on the screen there a second ago, and there's a man that deserves a huge amount of credit and a shout out for this is the re-emergence of Glenn Kamara in the second half of the game, and a reminder of how important he was to Leeds during that run after Christmas, and how an effective Glenn Kamara can impact Leeds positively versus an out of form or tired, or as it has been the case in previous weeks, of Glenn Kamara recovering from COVID.
Yeah.
And we haven't seen the same version of Glenn Kamara. He was excellent in the second half for me. He was dynamic. He was dropping in. He was spraying balls left to right. He was moving around the midfield. And I thought he was massively important to how Leeds came out from the back and created chances. And what I flashed up on screen was this. If you haven't seen this, it's linked in the bio down below. But Ben Locky, who's Locky Leeds on YouTube, is an analyst, is a Leeds fan, knows his football, is a qualified coach as well. This man is qualified in what he does. But Locky has done a full in-depth breakdown of the impact that Glenn Kamara had in the second half, but also shows what was going wrong with his game in the first half and how it changed in the second half, and how that should be a positive thing for Leeds fans to keep an eye on over the 2 games. Now, I'm not going to show the whole thing, but he's done a very, very in-depth breakdown on exactly why Glenn Kamara is important to Leeds, the patterns of passing, the distribution, the angles that he creates, his small little bits of movement. Locky's very good at what he does. Very, very good. People have been asking me to do more tactical breakdowns on this channel. If you want probably the best tactical breakdowns, Locky's your man. Max at Leeds Lady does a fantastic breakdown of matches as well. But Locky has the software, the insight, and also the fact he's a qualified analyst and coach. Go check him out if you want to see this. I would highly recommend watching this video. The detail that's in here, it will help you watch football a little bit different if you're not used to this kind of stuff. But it's a very good breakdown. Go check it out. As I said, it's linked down below in the video. Don't check it out right now because, we're still here talking. So hang on here a bit. And then you can go off and watch Locky afterwards. But I highly recommend it. And I highly recommend subscribing to Locky's channel as well, because the breakdowns, the insight that he gives into football will come from a very different side of how you view football, and massively recommend it. So if you want to see the game against Norwich in a slightly different light, go look at it from a man who knows what he's talking about, and that's Locky. So, yeah, just wanted to plug that because I did watch it and I thought it was phenomenal. And again, the more I watched it, the more I kind of looked at it and went, Glenn Kamara and this version of Glenn Kamara is so vitally important to how Leeds play out from the back and how he recycles the play and goes forward for Leeds instead of these passes back to the centre-backs all the time, which unfortunately we get that from our other midfielders. But to be expected, Ilya Groove's job is to win the ball and pass the 5 yards. That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
And he does a great job of that. Glenn Kamara is supposed to do more, and we saw it in the second half. And I thought he was very important to that second half. And I think he'd be very important when it comes into the second leg. And I don't know, what were your thoughts on Kamara in the game, Stats?
I thought certainly second half, and I've watched a bit of that Locky, and it's absolutely brilliant. I would certainly recommend it. He grew into the game again. He got back to the form that he showed probably prior to the international break, when we probably all players probably had a little bit of a dip, and it was only natural after the run we'd been on. And he looked like a bit more like his old self, to be honest with you. There was a bit of buzzing around everywhere. And it was the Glenn Kamara that we got used to, as I said, prior to the international break. Had a really, really good, certainly a solid 7, 8 out of 10 for me. And he's getting back to full fitness. He's getting back to full form. We probably missed that at QPR, in all honesty, when we got beat 4-0. But I'm pleased he came back in, I think, from the Southampton game. And, yeah, it all goes well for tomorrow night. And I think everybody's probably going to have an 8 or 9 out of 10 tomorrow night for Leeds to get to Wembley. But certainly Glenn Kamara looked like the Glenn Kamara of old, really.
Yeah, well, we're going to need everybody on form. It'd be nice to see Georgie Rutter find his form as well. No assists or goals since he's had his hernia operation. So the gamble doesn't appear to have completely paid off just yet. But he could still have 2 games potentially to have a huge impact. In terms of the second leg stats, just from we'll go through the normal stuff, although there's probably not an awful lot of point because of it's a playoff game. But in terms of injury news coming into it, Bamford's not expected to be involved. Could be back in time for the final should Leeds get there. Dan James expected to play a bigger role in the game. Thought he was very good when he came on in the first leg in terms of pressing and putting them under pressure. Loved it. And he's expected to play a bigger role in the game, as could Connor Roberts as well. I don't think we'll see Sam Byram go all the way to extra time should that happen. We want to have Roberts will likely come in there. From a Norwich perspective, they've got a fitness check on Josh Sargent, who went off injured. I'm okay to see Josh Sargent out of that game. I know somebody mentioned, I find that actual there. Andy mentioned the fact that Kamara's the most Marmite Leeds player ever. I think Josh Sargent's probably a Marmite player as well, but can be very effective as an old school number 9. So having him out disrupts how they play and was a large factor in how when they struggled earlier this year, not having him available. Ashley Barnes is also doubtful for the game as well. He's expected to have a late check as well, with a calf issue that he's had. Outside of that, it's pretty much exactly as it is. So with all that being said, and I'm going to let you do the statistical part of second legs and Ellen Road.
Well, I did put a tweet out earlier this morning that I think it had been, I'll just get this tweet up, because I did send it across to Bryn this afternoon. It has been 507 days tomorrow since we last won a playoff title in a row. That was a 1-0 victory over Charlton Athletic, thanks to Brendan Ormsby goal back in 1987 to take us to a replay. Obviously, we don't have replays nowadays. And also, then we lost the replay at St Andrews. John Sheridan scored early, and then unfortunately, Peter Shirley scored his only 2 goals for Charlton. 2006, we drew 1 on the first leg at home to Preston North End. David Nugent scored for North End before Eddie Lewis got a brilliant free kick for Leeds to take the tie 1-0. Leeds beat Preston at deep down and lost the final to Watford. 2 years later, we lost the first leg at home to Carlisle. A late Dougie Freeman goal sets up for a magnificent victory. Ironically, 16 years ago today, when Johnny Arson scored his 2 goals at Brunton Park to take Leeds United to another playoff final. Yeah,
oh, getting old.
2008 makes me feel really old.
Oh man,
yeah. And also lost to Doncaster. 2009, we drew the second leg against Millwall. Luciano Becchio scored one of the loudest cheers I think I've ever seen at Ellen Road when Ben Parker crossed the ball. Was quite unbelievable. Unfortunately, Jimmy Abdu then scored a late equaliser. Millwall went through to an aggregate.
Habit of scoring against us as well. He didn't matter who he played for. He always had a very good game again. I remember that era of Leeds going. He always played well against Leeds. Why didn't we not just buy him just so we couldn't play against Leeds?
And then, ironically, 5 years ago today was the Derby County game. So, which I think we went through every single range of emotion humanly possible, which from delirium when Stuart Dallas scored to deflation when the final whistle went and Derby County went 3-4 through an aggregate. So we've got a few rights to wrong tomorrow night. It's not one for the faint-hearted. It's the second time we've had the home leg, second, if that makes sense, for Millwall and Derby. Honestly, Charlton as well, so a third time in 87. But let's get to the final. We've also, and I know we're going to touch on this, we have had a penalty shootout in the League Cup, in the FA Cup, in the European competition, in the ZDS or for Members Cup, and in a Charity Shield. We're even in the Johnson Paints Trophy. So we've had penalty shootouts in 6 competitions. We've never had a penalty shootout in a playoff game. I can't even think about it.
You just said we've never had one, which now means we are going. I'm joking.
Sorry, you can blame me.
No, it doesn't. This is important because it's been said. I'm going to Lee's comment here. It doesn't matter. It's the past. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have a bearing on this, and we need to change that mentality around. Well, it's never happened for us, so it won't happen again. Let's remove the defeatist attitude from it. Crack on.
Yeah.
This is an opportunity for Leeds to go into playoff final and then potentially do something we haven't done this year, and that's beat Southampton. Because I do think it'll beat Southampton. I hope it's West Brom, but I think it'll beat Southampton.
So do I.
And Russell Martin seems to have Farke's number this year. And I think I heard somebody say it. He has played for Daniel Farke. He clearly has a very in-depth understanding of how Farke plays, because twice this season their midfield has pretty much dominated both games. So, I think we've got a chance here. It's set up for us to do well.
Yes.
We need the players to be calm. We need the crowd to be behind them. It was said here, I'm going to try and find the comment as well, because I don't like stealing people's comments, but I want to put it up there. Andy said, the encouragement roar from the crowd after the Southampton game shows the fans haven't given up. I don't get to Ellen Road that often, but I was really happy that I was there for that moment.
Yes.
Because to see Junior Firpo started it off, he went on his walk on his own. The rest of the players didn't really seem to know what was going on. There was huge amount of stewards around the game for a pitch invasion that was never going to happen. Some of the crowd had left. I'd seen some people say that most of the crowd had left. It didn't look like most of the crowd to me. It looked like a portion of the crowd had left. And then this roar started at every single stand as the players walked around. And it was very much a roar of, we're still here. We're still behind you. You've got this. Get your heads up. Let's go again. And then marching on together started. And if you're a Leeds player in that moment, you're expecting the crowd possibly to turn like they did this time last year, which in my opinion, last year, the crowd had every right in the world to be annoyed at what was happening on the pitch. But in this moment, the crowd didn't turn. In fact, they went the opposite direction and got behind the players.
Yeah.
And as a player walking into the dressing room, that would lift me. That would lift me. And I hope it does to them.
Of course it does. And we've got a wonderful opportunity tomorrow night. Well, 36,000 screaming supporters at Allen Road. It'll be a magnificent atmosphere. And yeah, let's do it. The only one stat I will say, David Wagner is the only manager in playoff history to win promotion without scoring a goal, because they beat Sheffield Wednesday. I think they got an own goal in that time, 2017, won on penalties, and then obviously beat Reading in the shootout in the final in 2017. So I don't know how you can play for penalties in a cauldron like that. I think you've got to go out, play your normal game. I know there'll be nerves, I know there'll be tension, but you've got to go out, play your normal game and try and win the game. And I think it'll be an exciting game. I think it'll be very tense first half hour. I think then it'll open up a little bit. And I'm hoping that Leeds will get the goal to take them to Wembley. And I think if Leeds do score first, I think they'll win the tie.
It's key. If we can score early, even better. Even better, just takes the pressure off everybody. Stats, who do you think is important for Leeds tomorrow? Like, who do you think are going to be the key players that are going to need to step up tomorrow?
Oh, crikey. Also, like I think Jorginho, and we've said that, we've alluded to his hernia operation. He's had a really, really good season. I think he's had an excellent season this season, and I think he'll be fit and ready to go tomorrow night. I think we'll see the best of Willie Gnonto. I think Roden and Ampadu have been absolutely magnificent this season. So, yeah, I think everybody just... And these are the games, as a footballer, you're born to play in, aren't you? These are the games that have so much pressure on it. It's a pressure cooking situation. And I think they cannot... You saw the performance against Leicester back in February, Ger. We were magnificent. We got the victory. We were brilliant against Ipswich. These are the games that you want to play in. I think we'll see... Gnonto started off quite well on Sunday afternoon. I think got a wee bit frustrated. They didn't get the penalty kick. I think special mention to Jadon Anthony. I thought when he came on Sunday looked very lively. So
absolutely, because he against Southampton when he came on. When he came on against Southampton, I just didn't see. I mean, for me, he came on and he marked the fullback. So every time we got the ball, he wasn't an option to receive it. But when he came on against Norwich, he was really active. He was busy. He was looking for the ball. And I was really enjoying seeing that. Also, just to shout out Kevin for a quick sec. My second name, Kev, is not an autocorrect fan. You should see my partner's text messages to me. The amount of times I get called her and get is incredible. So welcome. Welcome to autocorrecting my name. There you go. I think Anthony's hugely important. I think he's massively important to this. I mean, on that performance they played, you could start him. You're going to get a more direct approach from him. I don't think Willie Gnonto is important for me. I think Willie needs to drop the attitude a little bit.
Yes.
Stop getting involved with the referee. Stop moaning and complaining. Stop waving your hands around. Get on with the game. Get back to playing football. Be busy. Be on the ball. The good news for everyone, in case you weren't aware, the yellow cards picked up in the semi-finals don't count towards a suspension in the playoff final. So if Willie does get booked tomorrow night, he won't be suspended for the final. It's only in the event of a red card. So he's okay there. But for me, he just needs to relax, play football and enjoy it again. You can see the tension there. Not just him. They're barking at each other a little more than they have been this season. The players are a little bit more wound up than they were. But as you said, Stats, if you're a footballer, you want to play in games that matter. And these games are huge. And the potential of playing in Wembley should be something that these players are after. This is their opportunity to get that. And for me, you're in the wrong game if you're not playing for pressure moments. I love pressure games. My favorite thing was to play with pressure.
As a supporter, it's nervous excitement, but it's in a good way. That I can't wait to get that round tomorrow night, and I'm absolutely buzzing for the game.
Yeah, you're waiting on the moment. You're nervous because it might not go your way, but you're waiting on the moment when it does, and that's when the release happens, and that's when you have those big moments. So, we'll hope so. We'll rattle through a couple of bits and pieces just to finish off. You're not going to like these, but we're going to go through them anyway. Leeds have won both of their last 2 home games against Norwich in all competitions, which is good. The last time Leeds have won 3 against Norwich only happened twice, and it was the 1962 and 1972 seasons, respectively. So it hasn't happened that often. Chance to do it tomorrow. Leeds are looking to progress to the final of a playoff, which will be the first time since 2007, 2008 when we were in League One. And Leeds have lost their last 2 playoff semi-finals, which is not great, but fingers crossed we can turn that around. And Norwich are looking for their first time, but will become the 6th team in history if they can complete a win and get to the final. It will be 3 playoff appearances and 3 finals, 100% record if they can do that.
Yes.
Yeah. Stats, what have you got?
Penalty shootouts, as I mentioned earlier. Yep. We've actually won. We've had one penalty shootout against Norwich in our history. We've won it. That was back in the League Cup in 2016-17. And Ronaldo Vieira scored the winning penalty. I think Marco Silvestri, a blast from the past, won that one. Oh. So that's kind of the main. So as I mentioned earlier, we've had a penalty shootout on all the competitions, bar the playoffs, and home playoff goal scorers. The list is Keith Edwards, Brendan Ormsby, I'm doing this off memory, Eddie Lewis, Dougie Freeman. That was 2008. Luciano Becchio and Stuart Dallas, who obviously got 2 against Derby. So who will join that list? And one question I want to ask you, G, if it, God forbid, goes all the way, who's your 5 penalty takers?
It'll depend on who's left on the park.
Correct. Very much so.
I think Somerville.
Yes.
Pirro.
Yes, will be on the pitch, I'd imagine.
Ampadu.
Good shout.
Archie.
Yes.
If he's still in the park.
Oh, yeah.
And then it'll be either James or Nonto, depending on who's on the pitch at that. I think. But don't be surprised to see Junior Ferber pick a ball up and wander over to the penalty spot. I wouldn't be surprised for that.
Why not?
I would freak out. I have this thing in my head since I was a kid. My dad implanted this, and it was a David O'Leary thing. It was the 1990 World Cup.
Yeah.
And David O'Leary went up to take the winning penalty for Ireland against Romania. After Pop
yes.
I was a small child.
Yes.
I was 8. But anyway, O'Leary put the ball down. I remember my dad going, "Oh Jesus, no! Oh no!" And it wasn't because he was a centre back. It was because he was left-footed. And he was like, "Don't let a left footer near a penalty." And then I remember a manager I had at the time when I was younger, another manager had said to me, he doesn't trust left footers with penalties. So this thing became ingrained in my head of don't let a left footer near a penalty. Ever. Despite the fact that left footers tend to be more creative than right footers in general. So don't be surprised to see a left-footed Junior Ferber pick up the ball for the fifth and deciding kick and put it down.
Just going back to that 1990 World Cup, obviously you had Pat Bonner in goal. It was a magnificent keeper. You got, I think, to the quarters, and then also I think Italy beat you. And of course, that was the year that Chris Waddle's penalty for England is still travelling somewhere over the border somewhere against West Germany. That was a glorious one. My first ever World Cup was that in 1990, and obviously you either say Salvatore Scalacci, the Cameroonians with Roger Miller and all that, and obviously the winning goal scored by the late great Andy Bremer, who sadly passed away quite recently. But wonderful memories from that World Cup. And I can remember that watching, I think I was 5 or 6, and watching David O'Leary take the penalty because Alan had I think Alan in the group with England, if memory serves me right. I think Kevin Sheed scored in the game against England. And it was weird because it was 3 in a group. So we had England, Ireland, and Holland. And I don't think England won any of the games until they got to the second stage. And I think they beat Egypt along the way. And it was a wonderful World Cup. And it was the first real World Cup I understood football. And decided by a penalty kick, and I think Argentina had 2 sent off in the final. Memory serves me right. Great time. We digress from the.
There's a little bit of diving on that World Cup. I actually have. I'm looking at it now myself up there. I have the World Cup 1990 sticker album.
Magnificent!
And it came in a big binder. This thing is chunky, but it had all before there was YouTube. It had drawings of stages of goals that were great goals that were scored.
Magnificent.
I'm trying to remember the guy who played for Scotland years and years ago. It was in the 80s. Can't remember his name. Scored a great goal in the World Cup for Scotland. It had Diego Maradona's goal. Archie Gemmell. Yeah. It had Diego Maradona's goal, the second one against England. It had Michael Laudrup's goal. It had all these goals. I mean, I grew up watching like VHSs of the compilations like that. It taped off VHS and they taped off Eurosport of all the different World Cups. So like 1970 and 1986 World Cup or two that were assigned in the 70s, 74, it's 82, 86, 80. No, it wasn't 86, 82 World Cup.
Yes.
Yeah, Mexico.
86, yes.
Mexico 86, that was 86.
Yeah.
Loved it. I remember Hugo Sanchez returning to Mexico to play for Mexico in the Azteca, which was a massive moment. From Madrid, Enzo Francescoli from Uruguay, who I idolized as a kid. Yes. So all these great players around the world, you didn't get to see that often, but fantastic World Cup. But will always be ingrained in my head of don't let a left footer take a penalty. But as someone else has pointed out, Ian Hart took it back.
Talking of left footed very quickly, let's get back to the World Cup theme. There was a wonderful goal scored by Saudi Arabian called Saido Waran for Saudi Arabia against Belgium in the '94 World Cup. Honestly, that's the year that Ray Houghton scored that goal.
Goal.
Talk about the World Cup in brilliant. Some wonderful memories going in the early 90s from 1990 and 1994. But
that was our revenge for Scalacci.
Yes.
You can buy a green t-shirt in Ireland that says "fuck Scalacci" on it.
Yeah.
Still, to this day. Yeah.
And Ray House with an absolute wonderful goal on a Saturday night in Texas, I think it was, when Ireland beat Italy.
Yeah, it was a great period of time, some great teams, some great even Ireland and England battles back then, the Euros and the World Cup, some fantastic battles. Ray Houghton scoring a volley against England in the Euros as well. I was Ronnie Whelan. Bicycle kick.
Fantastic goal.
But yeah, different time. Different. Not related to Leeds, but we've gone off on a tangent, but that's good. And all of that was because of left footer possibly taking a penalty kick.
Which we hope it won't go that far, but we're just preparing in case it does.
I'm going for Leeds win in ordinary time. I'm not putting a score on it, but Leeds to win in ordinary time. Do you want to put a score on it?
That's all I'm saying.
Leeds win?
Leeds win after 90 minutes.
Yeah. Fingers crossed.
All I'll say.
Right. Yeah, well, let's hope. Right, folks, that's going to be it. Just a reminder, you can check out today's news video, which I will link for anyone who's watching this on demand. If you're not watching this, it's the preview video on the channel. Again, a massive thanks to everyone that's helped us get to 32,000 subscribers and 4 million views. Eternally grateful. We'll never not be grateful for that. So thank you. And I'll be back tomorrow morning with Leeds news as we get ramped up for what will be a massive game in Leeds United's history, at least in modern history. I see you. Sorry, my dog is...
Good that he knows.
As soon as I start saying goodbye, the dog's like, "Oh, we're off now, are we?" I'm gonna go downstairs and play ball with the dog. I will see you tomorrow for Leeds news. Best of luck. Thanks as always, mate. Really appreciate it.
Anytime.
See you, folks. Have a good one. Bye.